In today's video, we'll talk about facing your shadow. Let's start with a story. In a magnificent kingdom, nestled on the ethereal shores of a mesmerizing turquoise sea, there lived a man named Adrian. In his realm, everyone experienced never-ending divine bliss, yet, beneath the shimmering facade of his seemingly idyllic existence, a restlessness stirred within him. He began to be filled with an overwhelming curiosity to experience what lies beyond the walls. One night, as Adrian gazed upon the world that was tantalizingly close, yet so far away, from his palace window, he made a decision that would change his life. He would take a journey to discover the wonders awaiting him beyond the kingdom's borders. He wanted to do this because he had an insatiable thirst for experience, a desire to immerse himself in sensory pleasures of every conceivable type. Adrian ventured into bustling taverns where the pungent aroma of fine wine filled the air with an indescribable sweetness. He imbibed glass after glass, reveling in the swirling flavors that danced upon his palate. The crimson elixir coursed through his veins until he fell into a drunken stupor. He crossed oceans and continents so he could sample all of the delicacies the world had to offer. From bustling street markets full of exotic food displays, to elegant restaurants where master chefs weaved sublime culinary magic, Adrian took it all in. He savored the taste of fragrant curries, the tantalizing spices erupting into a fiery yet delightful explosion on his tongue. He relished the succulent tenderness of roasted meats, their juices mingling in his mouth in a harmonious symphony of flavors. In secret corners and opulent private chambers, Adrian surrendered to the pleasures of the flesh, taking on a dizzying number of lovers. In the entrancing flicker of candlelight, he indulged in passionate liaisons, driven to unlock the mysteries of human sensuality. The subtle interplay of gazes, the tender brush of fingertips, and the whispered promises of pleasure became the backdrop to his journey of sensory delight. Once he had his fill, he decided to return to the kingdom. However, as he approached the palace gates, he felt an unexpected chill as the guards gazed upon him with a disapproving scowl. They refused to grant him entry, dismissing him as an imposter, an annoying interloper who had no place in their world. Adrian pleaded with them to let him in, yet his words fell on deaf ears. Adrian turned away from the gates. The sadness of knowing that he was forever expelled from the kingdom where he was once a favored son weighed heavily on his heart. If you're a spiritual seeker, this story might seem familiar. That's because you've either already gone through the dark night of the soul or will experience it at some point in your journey. It's where the illusions of the material world crumble, leaving you vulnerable and bare. You feel utterly adrift, cut off from the divine, desperately longing for the deep connection you once had. The dark night of the soul shatters the illusions holding our egos in a vice-like grip. It's an invitation to eliminate all the old, worn-out ways of being in the world so you can embrace new ones. It cleanses us of old beliefs, patterns, and attachments, paving the way for reunification with the divine. Inayat Khan, one of the first to bring Sufism to the West, put it this way: there can be no rebirth without a dark night of the soul, a total annihilation of all that you believed in and thought that you were. Saint John of the Cross, a 16th century Spanish Carmelite monk and mystic, was the first to mention the concept. He describes the soul's epic journey from being distracted by earthly pleasures to ultimate unity with God in a poem. He taught that those seeking universal oneness must renounce all worldly delights and live a life of complete austerity. He believed that attachment to material possessions and earthly desires prevented an individual from becoming one with God. He went on to say that before a soul can reunite with the divine, they must also feel the intense pain Christ felt on the cross. In other words, a dark night of the soul. Some people believe it's the same thing as depression. However, depression is a mental health condition. while the dark night of the soul is spiritual desolation, a barren desert where the once abundant spring of divine truth has run dry. As we plunge into the dark night of the soul, we feel alienated by our Creator, left alone in a world that has lost all meaning. As the darkness settles in, so does hopelessness. We're sucked into a never-ending vortex of despair and can't escape from the nightmare no matter what we do. The closeness with God we once had seems distant and elusive, filling us with a desperate longing to get back to what we once knew. We ache for the rekindling of a deep spiritual bond with God, craving the solace it once brought. We yearn to be with the divine, but unfortunately, the gates have clanged shut. There is no way we can go back to our old way of living, yet we can't seem to find our way back to God, no matter how hard we try. Nothing in this world appeals to us anymore. Money, fame, sex, substances, relationships. None of it holds any sway. We long to flee the transitory pleasures of the world and dive headlong into the oceanic depths of divine bliss, but we can't. We wonder if it's the almighty and omnipotent being who's holding us back, or our own psyche. If it's God, we don't have a clue why He left us alone to struggle in a world we no longer find appealing. We question why He won't take away our existential angst so we can experience divine bliss once more. Once a spiritual traveler emerges from the dark night of the soul, they see it as the best thing that could have ever happened to them. That's because few things in life can deepen spiritual realization like this experience. The dark night of the soul forces seekers to confront their shadows head-on, aspects of themselves that they may have repressed or denied. By examining their relationship to what they despise, facing their fears, uncovering their triggers, and diving deeply into their psychological depths, they can integrate their shadow with the rest of their being. During your sojourn into the shadows, it's crucial to never lose hope. Keep in mind that beyond the darkness, there's always light. Don't succumb to the belief that God has forsaken you. Rather, have faith that the divine will guide you to where you need to be. Don't try to run away from your pain. Instead, surround it with a spacious presence. By doing this, you'll release energy you can use to dissolve your ego, ultimately paving the way for divine reunification. By fully accepting the pain, you'll transcend the egoic patterns and attachments contributing to suffering. All the pain you accumulated during your ordeal will be transmuted into the peace that passes all understanding. This leaves you oblivious to everything save for the presence of God. Once you've reached this stage of your spiritual journey, you'll be content, like Eckhart Tolle was, to sit on a park bench as all exterior manifestations of self fall away. However, true enlightenment doesn't mean abandoning worldly existence. If that were the case, we would have never incarnated on the physical plane to participate in this divine experiment called life. So, you're going to have to build your life anew from the ashes of the old. After your egoic identity falls away like a snake shedding its skin, you'll wake up to a brand new reality and a brand new world. Eventually, you'll realize that every step along the way was orchestrated by universal oneness, even your plunge into the pits of despair. Once we have this epiphany, we'll grasp the truth of T.S. Eliot's quote, "We shall not cease from exploration, and the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we began and to know the place for the first time." The dark night of the soul beckons, an initiatory passage where illusions crumble, egoic constructs dissolve into dust, and the radiant light of truth illuminates the path to sacred reunion with the divine. Embrace this holy dance, for in the depths of this transformative journey lies the sweet nectar of awakening, the birthing of a new dawn.